Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Dose of Common Sense. And I have one question. If common sense is supposed to be so damn common, why is it that no one has it? And good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Dose of Common Sense. And this morning, we're just going to call it Wednesday. Why not? Wednesday, August 10th, 2017. How y'all doing today? I apologize for the delay in releasing the podcast. As those of you who follow me on Twitter know, my computer took the celestial eternal dirt nap. So the vocals happen to be screwed for the next few weeks, thanks to the fact that, well, more things that I could possibly shake a stick at, including financial issues. Well, welcome to that. So, first thing up is those of you who, unless you were blind or completely dark to the web for the last few days, the iPhone 8 has been leaked again. And this particular time, everything looks just like it always has looked. Except for in this particular case, I think this leak is as authentic as we're going to see it. And the reason for that is, in this particular one, it actually has a case on it. Now, that case, of course, is supplied by the company known as Urban Armor Gear, which is a pretty good case company. I use it for my Galaxy S8 Plus. They have several different case types for pretty much almost any phone that you would want, at least the major flagships anyway, and a lot of the ones that aren't flagships. So, if anybody's interested in looking up what the iPhone 8 looks like with a UAG case, of course I think they could have picked another effing color because it looks like a screwed up looking lime. Check it out. I'm going to try to put the link in the show's description. If I'm not able to, well, I guess we're just going to have to wait for a little bit longer. My apologies in advance, by the way. Speaking of iOS and iPhone and all that goodness that involves Apple, the iOS 11 beta, the developer preview number 5, and the public beta number 4 has been released, and I'll be honest, it doesn't look all that bad. Of course, you've got the usual changes in the icons. You've got a couple of major changes. Basically, the first couple right off the bat would be the settings icon is changed. The control center has changed quite a bit and actually looks somewhat more organized. Of course, you still can't customize much of anything, so welcome to that world. But anyway, I do have the iOS beta 11 actually on both of my iOS devices at this particular point. Pretty much didn't have a choice in the matter. So, I don't know, it looks good so far. The last beta kind of prevented me from doing a couple of things having to do with the podcast. But we will check and get back to you on that. I can tell you this right now, it's not going to be the absolute dumpster fire that I have labeled some software. Bixby. And no, this isn't going to be a Bixby bash. So, we'll see. I don't know. We'll give it a few days, and I'll let you know how it looks over the weekend. Why not? So, next up on the wonderful rundown tonight is going to be Google. Now, there was a manifesto, if you will, an internal memo that a Google engineer has written, and it was very controversial. Had to do with diversity and more or less people putting women in certain divisions on Google that they clearly appeared to not want to be in. I haven't completely read the memo myself. I don't know if there's a link the link that I was able to get to, I wasn't able to actually access. But in this particular case, they fired that particular engineer, and honestly, I don't know enough of the situation at Google, nor do I know enough of the memo itself. If anybody has any of that, go ahead and email me that link at show@techfilesmedia.com. I'll be more than happy to take a look at it and then give you my opinion. But I'm not going to burn someone at the stake unless I know completely what this thing had to do with. So we'll find out. And now from the "you must be high" file. Now, LG's been known for not doing quite a few things, marketing amongst them. LG's also been known for sort of not being able to keep much of a secret when it has to do with most all of its products. But this one was kind of a head scratcher. So we all get leaks from time to time, and usually these leaks are either A, computer renders, B, a render that we can't see the front of the device, or C, something that looks so shoddy and crappy we don't know if it's a picture of the device or a drawing by a 4-year-old. But in this particular case, I have to hand it to LG and the company that they chose to do their advertising with, if there is such a thing with LG. Boy, when they let this leak fly, they let it fly. I mean, everything that you could possibly see on the phone, except for the UX, they just pretty much leaked it. I mean, and then they pretty much just announced the phone. What the frack? Seriously. I mean, okay, so LG hires the same company they hired last year to do their advertising campaign. Okay, par for the course, LG, so what? And then this company turns around and puts a couple of pictures on its own online in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Who cares? Well, what do you know? The thing just showed up, and it's for all to see, and it's not really that much of a difference from the LG G6. So if anybody has any questions about what the V30 is going to look like, imagine, if you will, the LG G6 and put an air pump inside of its supposed headphone jack and inflate it by about 1/4 of an inch. And there you go. Now I'm going to say one thing. The camera on this looks absolutely killer. But until I see the actual UI and I don't feel the sudden and urgent need to vomit, I'm kind of going to hold judgment on this a little bit. I mean, yeah, UI doesn't necessarily tell you exactly how the phone's going to act. But if pattern goes to what the pattern has been before, this thing is going to look somewhere along the lines of baby vomit or bird poop. And I don't necessarily know what to think of that. I mean, yeah, you can slap a custom launcher on it, but this thing's a brand new phone, and it's going to be freaking almost $900 probably. I mean, we are looking at flagships approaching the $1,000 mark. Are we kidding? Whatever. I mean, here's what I think of LG. As long as LG continues to stay out of touch as far as marketing goes or anything like that, or even social media, I haven't seen posts from LG talking about their actual smartphones in a long while. Pretty much what I've seen from LG as far as smartphones are concerned is the Q6. The effing Q6, it's not even your flagship. It's not your major flagship. Your Q6 is pretty much for every country almost except for the United States of America. No offense to you international listeners who I love to death, but I'm going to get on this LG rant. You guys haven't been involved in marketing in almost 3 effing years. And you're going to pick Levitt's company. Are we kidding? I think they've proven their track record last year, LG. It's called Zippo. It's called Bupkis. It was nothing. So let me know when you get a real marketing firm or somebody that's actually behind your marketing campaign, and I'll start looking forward to this phone. Until then, if you want to look at the V30, just look at the G6 and inflate it by 1/4 inch. Merry Christmas. We're going on. So, here's another if you're high. DJI has been a very, very reliable company for years as far as its drone manufacturing and as far as its gimbal manufacturing is concerned. The DJI Osmo is probably the best gimbal on the market, bar none. Unfortunately, it has a little bit of a high price tag. That's the only issue it has. Other than that, you can't get a better gimbal than the Osmo. Pure and simple. You can't get a better drone than one made by DJI. Their Phantoms are awesome. I've actually used one. So I do know what I'm talking about here. Now, for some bleeping unknown reason, the United States Army is going to get involved, and they're going to sit there and say, we are not going to use DJI drones for any of our use because of the vulnerability and security. Huh? You're kidding me, right? DJI drones. You can hack a phone, you can hack a drone. If you say something can't be hacked 9 times out of 10, it's going to be hacked. Just ask HBO. We'll get into that in a minute. So, apparently the Army is no longer going to use DJI for anything as far as their drones are concerned. I kind of think I'd like to know what the Army's smoking. And then I want some. Because you're looking through a bottle into another world, guys. You really, really are. And I'm just going to call it what I see it. It's kind of stupidity. Somebody's been in your ear. I don't know who it is, but you need to get them out of your ear while you can. Welcome to that world. So we're going to go out of the Are You High file, and we're going to discuss, just for a second, a couple of issues for T-Mobile. Those of you who are T-Mobile subscribers that happen to have the Jump on Demand feature, I kind of thought this one went away. But apparently they've changed their jump guidelines. It used to be that you can use your Jump on Demand 3 times a year. Now, I kind of understand why people want to do that. They want to have the latest and greatest, and I do too, to be quite honest with you. But they changed this from 3 times a year to once every 30 days. Now, aside from the fact that they changed that on a feature that I thought was gone, I want the customer to sit back. Okay. So if you're a T-Mobile subscriber, why don't you sit back on this just for a minute, and I'm going to pull up my little bitty data here. And I'm going to tell you what I think of this. Yeah, you just had my partial opinion. So if you're going to sit there and you're going to have the Jump on Demand, okay, great. The only particular issue I have with this one right now is this. So you can change devices every 30 days, which is, honestly, it's kind of awesome. But here's my only question. So if you do the jump after 12 months, there is kind of a penalty that you have to pay. And you have to get your device below a certain level, which is perfectly understandable. I'm just kind of worried here. Customers are not, you're not going to get a full reimbursement when you do the Jump on Demand. And the main reason behind that is, well, you're not going to get the full value of what you haven't paid for on your device. So let's say you get an $850 device at retail through JOD, okay? So you have it for, let's say, 2 months. Okay, so you're going to make a maximum payment of, let's say, $70. That's going to bring your total that you're going to owe down to about $680. Well, no, $850 minus 70. You're going to be looking at about $780, depending on whether or not you make a payment on any one of the devices before you exchange. And then you're not going to get full value back for that phone. You're probably going to get somewhere about 80%. So take that 780 and take 120 off of that, or 140 off of that. So you're going to be looking at about 640 that they'll take for the device. And then you're going to get another one for anywhere between 600 and 1,000. So take that amount and then add the 120 to it, minimum. So if you do that, you're going to end up owing, even if you did it 3 times a year, you're going to owe an additional at least $300 on top of whatever's left on your phone. Trust me, I know I kind of did this because I used my 12-month, actually, I take that back. I actually had the first device with T-Mobile for the full 2 years. I actually used somewhat less. I did what's known as an early payout. I only owed $400 left on the phone, so I pretty much paid $200 of it, traded it in and rolled it over from the S7 Edge to the S8 Plus. But I know I didn't get full value for what I had, so as a result, I'm paying on the S8 Plus for the next 2 years. Yeah, it's not all that big of a deal if you only do that with one device, but if you're doing that every 30 days, the charges are going to add up. So just a word of caution out there to my listeners, before you decide to upgrade every 30 days for like 6 months straight, because they've got some good ones coming. I mean, you've got the Moto Z2 Play. I'm not going to even say the Force because the screen is a dumpster fire. So you've got the Moto Z2 Play. You're going to have the Note 8. Assuming that they've got the V30 coming, you might do that. Or the iPhone 8. So it's going to add up. So just, if you decide to enlist with Jump On Demand, or if you decide to take them up on this, if you're ready to go on Jump On Demand, word of warning, word of caution, just, you get what you pay for. Just be careful. And I say that not really, the opinions represented here do not express anybody who I have worked for, who I work for now, or I'm going to work for in the future. So take that word of advice, let it go into one ear, let it go out the other if you want, let it come in the brain and jumble around, or just declare it too long, don't care. But word of warning, I've already told you, let's skip it and move on. So speaking of LG and their ability to leak tremendously, it looks like they're going to be coming out with the G Pad X2. It's going to be an 8-inch screen, and it will be offered by T-Mobile at the very least. It doesn't look like that bad of a tablet. Looks like it's going to be coming out roughly about the same time, perhaps a little bit earlier than the V30. So we will check this out. By the way, in case anybody's interested on the V30, it will be announced, as if it isn't already, on August, I do believe, the 31st. And like I said, it's just an inflated version of the G6. I mean, it's beautiful, don't get me wrong. It's an inflated version of the G6, and just cram all the features from the V20 in it. So there's that. And finally, and I do have to do a little bit of this. Yay, AT&T. Not really, but I've got to throw some praise their way because they finally managed to announce the S8 Active. What took you so effing long, AT&T? Everybody knew about this device for 3 months. It happens every year. It's not that much of a surprise. What surprised all of us is everyone in the world has pretty much seen this phone, and then all of a sudden the other day you decide you're just going to announce it. So, S8 Active is actually announced, kids. Anybody want a curious thing about what the device is going to look like? Basically, it's the same thing as, it's a cross between the S8 and the S8 Plus. Throw a case on there, throw actual bezels on there a little bit. It's not all that much. And then it's still going to be A10G, and it's still going to have IP68 water and dust resistance. And there you go. Problem solved. It is still going to have the Snapdragon 835. So we are going to go from that train wreck to this train wreck. How many people in my audience have Hangouts? Oh, all of you. Well, most of you. If you've had a Hangout since KitKat, you pretty much have Hangouts now, unless you went and deliberately erased it from your phone, in which case I wouldn't blame you. But as of, and I'm just going to call the time here, as of 2:19 Central Standard Time in the United States, we still don't have Hangouts completely functional for a lot of us. I'm not sure about my international listeners. I just will say Hangouts has become more of a dumpster fire lately than it usually is. And now it looks like it's just not working. This is affecting pretty much, I'd say at least 60 to 80% of users in the United States. Probably about 40% of the people around the world at this particular point. Hopefully it will be back online shortly. We'll find that out. So I kind of wish Google would do one of two things. Clean it up, change the UI a little bit, because it is getting kind of aged. Or just kill Hangouts like you've been planning on for 2 years, guys. Just kill it. It's dead. Kill it. And just, I don't know, make everybody use Allo. Oh, God. Yeah, I said it. Make them use Duo and Allo. I mean, there's two messaging apps that are really catching on. And the one app that it was meant to replace is still there. Why? Google's ability to get rid of apps is starting to turn out like rescinding a bill from Congress. If you don't believe that one, check with the Trump administration. And that's about as close to political as I'm going to get. So, next up is Disney. And you kind of wonder why I'm even mentioning Disney. Well, I'll tell you why I'm mentioning Disney. Here's why. Disney has decided to pull all of its intellectual property, all its cartoon series, all its movies and everything off of Netflix. Why? Easy. They're not just going to start up one streaming service, they're going to start up two before the end of the year. What? Yes, two. Apparently one for the Disney properties and one for ESPN. Dear God, why? I mean, it's not like you're losing money hand over fist with ESPN and some of your Disney properties to begin with. You are. But now it appears like you're going to spend yet more money on streaming services. Guys, that's not a cheap and that's not a budgetary option. My principal reason on this one being that if y'all want to know how expensive streaming services could cost, why don't you ask Netflix before you pull your property from them? Last time I checked, I think Netflix is almost 20 billion in red, and I could be extremely wrong on that because I'm going through just a couple of sources instead of my usual 10 to 12, but apparently they are. And sorry for that close that went through. So that If you want a head scratcher, look up Disney and streaming services. I'm sure your eyes might bug out, you might scratch your head, and then after that you might take some pain medication. It's kind of headache inducing. So, we're going to just recap this one really quick. LG apparently can't keep a secret, can't keep any marketing that's decent, and they're going to be releasing the G Pad X2. T-Mobile is going to be releasing a couple of handsets through kind of like TCL does with the BlackBerry. They're really not that bad of phones either. That should be out anytime now. There's actually going to be two. One's going to be built by Coolpad, and the other one's going to be built, I do believe, by TCL. Like I said, they actually don't look like bad phones at all. So, there's that to look forward to from T-Mobile. The US don't want to use DJI anymore. Oh, yeah. T-Mobile also changed their jump on demand policy. Instead of 3 times a year, it's once every 30 days. Which could put a lot of people into financial straits, so just be careful with that. Google fired the author of the diversity memo, or manifesto, or however you want to call that. Like I said, I don't have access to the actual document itself. If anybody's got that, send me an email, show@techfilesmedia.com. If you have a question, comment, send me a message on Twitter @techfiles or techfilesmedia. And we do have @techfiles or techfilesmedia on Instagram, which we will be making quick use of here very shortly, now that we have access to it after the computer decided to take a celestial dirt nap. And for those of you who are wondering still, and if you haven't been living under a rock, iOS 11 beta, the public release version 4 is out. The developer version 5 is out. If you are a developer for iOS, or if you want to take a look at the public beta for iOS, you can download them both through apple.com. And editor's point, I do have 11 beta 4 on both my iPad and my iPhone 7 Plus, so I'll give you a quick review within the next couple of days. But as of right now, it doesn't appear to be too bad. And the S8 Active has been announced, if you didn't know that one already, which I'm sure you have. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I thank you very much for listening to me wherever you may be, in your homes, in your cars, or in your ears. Thank you to all those who have listened. Thank you for your patience for the day-long delay in getting this one up and running. And I hope to catch you all on the next one. That'll be it for now. Have a good morning, have a good day, or a good evening. Stay classy, kiddies. Take care. Now, I bet you want to know the best way to contact us here. The good ways to contact us here is to send us an email at show@techfilesmedia.com, TEKFILESMEDIA.com. Or follow us on Twitter @techfiles or @techfilesmedia. And we can be followed on Instagram @techfiles or @techfilesmedia. We can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, TuneIn.com, iHeartRadio, Pocket Cast, and of course, none of this would be possible without our host at Spreaker. Thank you. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Y'all have a wonderful day. And don't forget your home screens, show@techfilesmedia.com. Have a good one, guys.